Unfortunately for United fans, it's time to talk about your crisis. Before we do, I just want to say, because we haven't really mentioned them, is Brighton were absolutely
terrific,
exceptional. And you know what, Coisty? Yazim Ayari, typical of Brighton, he ran the midfield. He was sensational. He cost them £3.5 million.
Well,
you look at the recruitment at someone like Brighton and compare it with some of the big boys, and it's night and day.
Well, you would suggest the recruitment at Brighton has been the best club's recruitment anywhere on the planet in the last, you tell me, 5 years. You think of the players, you think of the money, I think of the players that they've brought in first of all, and then think about the money that they've made, Jeff. I mean, the club is just one of, if not the greatest success story in the last 20 years. I remember covering them at the Wooddean Stadium, Jeff.
Yeah.
Honestly, I remember going to games there. And I'm thinking to myself, where they are now, it's just a credit, and it's a brilliant place to go. You know that way, it's still get the family feel about it. It's one of these clubs you go, they're delighted to see you, have a cup of tea and a blether. Great, and more strength to them. It's great to see.
Well, look, my son Matt was there yesterday. He's a Brighton season ticket holder, and he loved it, even though Avanti weren't running any trains back yesterday evening, so it was a bit of a haul back to Brighton from Manchester. But I don't suppose any Brighton fans care about that. Yeah. Dan, who calls himself the unhappiest Man United fan, says, "Morning, Jeff and Ali. What is funny is that every talkSPORT listener, including myself, has all the answers and such easy solutions to fix all of our broken teams. Yet in reality, we haven't got the foggiest." Dan, nor do we, mate. Nor do we.
No, welcome to the club, Dan.
Welcome. Also, he says, "I don't have anything weird with a fry-up, but I do like salad cream with roast potatoes." Interesting. Look, let's concentrate on United then. That home loss against Brighton yesterday, Ruben Amorim made a bold statement to his players.
Like I said, I'm not going to change, no matter what. And I know we can succeed, but we need to survive this moment because I'm not naive. And I know that we need to survive now. So we are being the worst team, maybe, in history of Manchester United. And I know that you want headlines, but I'm saying that because we have to acknowledge that and to change that. So here we go, your headlines.
Yeah, well, it certainly was. It was a headline-making statement. I think he knew full well that it was going to be a headline-making statement as well. Let's get to the phone lines. Gareth is a Manchester United fan. Good morning, Gareth.
Morning, Gareth.
Good morning, gentlemen. A wonderful show, as always.
Thank you, Gareth.
I wish I could be phoning on better conversations, to be honest, but as usual, it's the same downbeat Manchester United conversation that we always have. I've been supporting them for nearly 40 years now, so my oldest memory was winning the Cup Winners' Cup in '91 when we beat Barcelona in Rotterdam. So obviously I've lived through some good times, but now I'm living through some really, really bad times.
Yeah, difficult times. Is it the worst Manchester United team that you remember?
It's definitely the worst Manchester United team that I've remembered. In the last 10 years, we've seen some shocking performances. But at the moment, and you can't blame the manager. I was just saying before, the only decent thing we've got going at the moment is the youth academy. I think it's rotten to the core. The recruitment is terrible. The owners, well, less said about them, the better for an early morning, because we can't say any bad words, can we?
No, absolutely not. No. And, I know you got Rangers at the weekend, but you got Fulham away next weekend. Things might get worse before they get better.
I think they will. I think there's no doubt about it. We're in a relegation battle, and I can't believe I'm saying them words, but we are. Look where we are in the table.
I'm not having it, Gareth. I don't think you're in a relegation battle. I think you're way better than some of the teams below you. I think the relegation battle for me is 3 of the bottom 4 now. I don't know what you think, Coisty.
Well, I'll tell you what I will say. I agree with you. To a certain degree, they will not go down, but for 75 minutes. If they weren't played off the park, Southampton were by far and away the better team at Old Trafford on Thursday night. And I don't know if Gareth agrees. I thought they were very fortunate to go away with 3 points. But I do take your point. I don't think they'll go down or anything like that.
Gareth, thank you very much indeed. Let's hear from another United fan. This is Jonathan. Morning, Jonathan.
Morning, Jonathan.
Morning, boys. How are you doing?
Yeah,
We're doing fine, mate.
good.
Thank
Probably
you.
better than you.
Well, this is the point I'm making. I've seen worse. I'm older than Gareth. I remember the teams in the 80s.
Yeah.
But I think there's another point to be made here. It's most probably the worst level of management above the team manager I've ever seen. These idiots, we've got a guy who runs cycling there. Just think about it, right? We're going to bring a manager in. He plays a completely different system of play than the way the players are used to. Why on earth do you bring him in mid-season? They panic, they react, they don't plan. Look at the thing with Ten Hag. Never matter winning the FA Cup, he should have gone immediately, brought Amorim in and brought the right players. Because surely these guys have seen over the few years that Ten Hag cannot buy a player. He hasn't got the faintest idea of buying a player. He only buys players who've played for him before because he can control them. So he brought all these guys. They're lit. He's failed everywhere. Why do we bring him in? I mean, obviously, we don't discuss Anthony. That's just slightly embarrassing.
So, look, Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS, when they came in, everybody seemed to welcome him with open arms. Do people feel very differently now?
Oh, completely. I think, first of all, these petty things they've done. I mean, football teams in the past, not so much now, have always been a family. So what do you do? All the people who work hard behind the doors, take care of the players, we're not bringing them to the cup final. How much would that save, boys? It's pathetic. The way they're putting prices up for disabled fans, they have no idea about sport. Look at every sport they get involved with. Is it Nice or Lyon in France? The America's Cup, all the money they're putting that, they got hammered. Right, I think it's a bit of... Listen, Dave, I'm sure Jim's got the right ideas, but they're not football people. And the best thing Simon Jordan ever said was, you want to lose a lot of money in football, but invest in it. That's where you lose, because football's a different game than business. I've never seen so many sharks in one area than in football. So there's a lot of problems, but on the other hand, he had the defensive side right against Arsenal and Liverpool. But I think this conversation, and Ali was so right, should have been had on Friday morning. Southampton played us off the park, the second or worst team in the league. Now, that's a worry. Brighton are a good team. They know how to buy players. They've got good ownership. We haven't.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot going wrong. But remember, it could have been in the old days when we had a guy called Alan Brazil playing for us. That was bad.
Great call, mate. Good call.
Thanks, Jonathan. I tell you what, one or two United fans would probably like to have Alan Brazil at centre forward right now, rather than alternative options.
There's no doubt about that.
Let's take another caller. Joe is a United fan. Morning, Joe.
Morning, Joe.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Yeah, good.
Fine,
Thanks.
thank you.
What do you want to say?
Well, I don't know if you remember, but it was when Amorim first came in, I called up, and it was on the morning that Ali said there's not going to be any major changes until a few transfer windows, and it's ringing home true. A little bit on the Southampton game, we were absolutely played off the park, and every single positive result we've had recently, so Southampton, Liverpool, Arsenal, there's been extraneous factors there that have given us those points and that luck. Because let's face it, Liverpool didn't get out of second gear, and we were gifted goals by Trent Arnold. Arsenal, if they had someone who could finish their dinner, we'd be out of the cup. Southampton, for 80 minutes, we were played off, and again, we were relying on Diallo to get us out the Stutt. And now we come up against a side who are brilliant in terms of team cohesion, arguably got better personnel than us. And the truth has once again been exposed. I just don't see how anyone expected anything other than this. That being said, we are going in the right direction with Amorim in charge, because he is a manager who is taking ownership. He's accepting the situation we're in. He's not being like Ten Hag and denying and trying to play down the situation. He's being realistic about it. And the first step you have to take to solving a problem is realising the problem and the scale of it, and he's doing that. So I believe he's the right man in charge, definitely, but this really is the worst team in recent history of United. The personnel was terrible, and then they don't play as a team. You can't have those two factors there and expect to have any sort of positive on-field results.
Joe,
just sort of wondering how you feel about Amorim going forward, and it is definitely got to be a huge clear-out.
Joe, thank you very much indeed
Thanks,
for that.
Joe.
Rather than how we feel about Amorim, Christian from Macclesfield says, I think I speak for the majority of Manchester United fans. We are 100% behind Ruben Amorim. One more very quick one. Let's speak to Jerry, who's a United fan. Morning, Jerry.
Good morning, Jerry.
Hello, Jeff. Hello, Ali.
How are you?
Thanks for taking the call.
Pleasure, mate.
Irish fan here for over 60 years.
Lovely.
And this may sound counterintuitive, but the team that got relegated in 74 were a far better team than the squad of players that are currently with United. What troubles me the most is the total lack of commitment and effort. And I think what summed it up for me was in the Southampton game when Anthony missed from 1 foot out and he got up and he was laughing. Why was he laughing? I'd really like to know. Ali, I'm sure you would have stuck that away, no problem whatsoever.
Hey, Jerry, I'd have stuck that away, let alone Coisty.
Jerry, I've got to say to you, mate, I was staggered. Not just at that miss. I mean, that these things can happen, but I think you make a very, very valid point. I think what's probably difficult to take for the Manchester United support at this moment in time is not so much the results. The results aren't good and that'll disappointment, but it's the manner of the results. And I think you make a good point. Man United teams have always had spirit and fight in them, and this one I'm not so sure has.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.